Autumn comes early in Philadelphia. Patricia Monroe was walking briskly toward her car in the parking lot of the medical device manufacturer where fallen red leaves danced around her feet. She had just finished a busy day as the company's sales manager and now needed to pick up her daughter Amy from after-school care. "I can't be late," Patricia muttered, glancing at her watch. Her gentle brown eyes always carried a hint of worry and fatigue. Still, whenever she thought of her daughter, those eyes naturally softened with a warm light. As she drove toward the suburban neighborhood of Philadelphia, Patricia mentally organized the materials from today's sales meeting. Her sales team had achieved their quarterly goals, and she herself had just been recognized as a top performer. Yet such accomplishments seemed trivial compared to the beaming smile her 8-year-old daughter Amy would show her after school. When she arrived at the after-school care center, Amy was already waiting at the entrance. The petite girl with the same brown hair as Patricia came running the moment she spotted her mother. "Mom! I got a perfect score on my math test today." Patricia hugged her daughter, gently rubbing her small back. "That's wonderful. We'll have to make room on the refrigerator when we get home." The two got into the car. Patricia checked on her daughter in the rearview mirror while asking about her day. Amy continued happily sharing stories about school events. With her bright and kind personality, she was popular in her class. When they arrived home, Patricia immediately started preparing dinner. While cooking, she checked tomorrow's meeting materials on her smartphone. As a single mother, her days constantly felt like walking a tightrope between two worlds. Yet Patricia took pride.
"Do you know some people earn over $10,000 a month just by posting Reddit stories on YouTube? No face, no voice, just a laptop. I do it too, link below if you're curious."
In managing both. After dinner, while Amy was doing her homework, Patricia found herself lost in thought as she folded laundry. 3 years ago, when her divorce from David was finalized, she had worried whether she could manage with just herself and Amy. David had moved to Texas and started a new family, now only seeing Amy about twice a year. It had been difficult at first, but now it had become part of their normal life. "Mom, I don't understand this problem," Amy called out, bringing Patricia back to the present. She immediately went to her daughter's side and began helping with the math problem. That's when the phone rang. The screen displayed, "Mom." Patricia sighed as she answered. "Good evening, Mom." "Patricia, you haven't forgotten about Sunday's lunch, have you?" Marjorie Monroe's voice was as sharp as ever. At 65, the retired elementary school principal firmly believed that strictness makes children strong. "I haven't forgotten. Amy and I will be there. Catherine is bringing her children too. Her Mason and Jason are so well behaved. You really should discipline Amy more firmly." Patricia closed her eyes, trying to maintain her composure. "Mom, I'm raising Amy in my own way. She's a good child." "You're too lenient," Marjorie replied instantly. "Last week she was swinging her legs at the table. In my day, such behavior would never have been tolerated." "It's a different era now, Mom," Patricia said, her voice tired. After hanging up, Patricia returned to the living room. Amy had finished her homework and started reading a book. Patricia sat next to her daughter and put her arm around the small shoulders. Family relationships might be complicated, but as long as she had this child, they would manage somehow. Reassuring herself, Patricia kissed her daughter's cheek. "Mom, are we going to Grandma's house?" There was a hint of anxiety in Amy's voice. "Yes, but don't worry. I'll be with you." Amy nodded, but there was a small shadow in her eyes. Patricia noticed this but felt her stomach tighten just thinking about Sunday's lunch. Wednesday afternoon, Mr. Jameson, Patricia's boss, knocked on her office door. His expression carried an unusual tension. "I have important news. An emergency business meeting has come up in Boston. Mitchell Medical is interested in our new products. I'd like you to go." Patricia caught her breath. Mitchell Medical was a major player that everyone in the industry knew. If this contract succeeded, it would be a significant boost for her career. However, worries also crossed her mind. When is it? 3 days starting tomorrow. I apologize for the short notice, but we can't miss this opportunity. Left alone in her office, Patricia rubbed her forehead. She immediately picked up her smartphone and contacted Nancy, her regular babysitter, but learned she was bedridden with the flu. Next, she called her friends Rebecca and Amanda, but both had prior commitments. This is a problem. Patricia sighed, considering her final option. Would she have to ask her mother, Marjorie? She hesitated. The relationship between Marjorie and Amy was complicated. The grandmother loved her granddaughter, but Patricia found her expression of love difficult to understand. With no other options, Patricia called her mother. Mom, I have a sudden business trip. Could you watch Amy for 3 days starting tomorrow? Well, of course, Marjorie's voice was surprisingly cheerful. Catherine will help too. Her children will be there, so Amy won't be lonely. Patricia hung up with mixed feelings. Catherine's presence heightened her anxiety. Her sister was a mother of 2 sons, but her disciplinary methods were as strict as those she had inherited from Marjorie. That evening, Patricia explained the situation to Amy when she returned from school. Amy, Mom needs to go to Boston for work for 3 days starting tomorrow. You'll be staying at Grandma's house during that time. Amy's expression clouded. Grandma's house. Will Aunt Catherine be there too? Yes, but it'll be fine. I'll call every night. Patricia pulled her daughter close. If anything bothers you, call me right away. Amy nodded silently, but her eyes reflected deep concern. It's okay, I'll be back soon, Patricia said, hugging her daughter, trying to reassure herself as much as Amy. That night, Patricia packed everything Amy would need and wrote detailed instructions. She noted everything from Amy's allergies to her favorite foods, bedtime, school pickup and drop-off times, everything she could think of. The next morning, when Marjorie arrived to pick Amy up, Patricia began giving detailed explanations at the door. Mom, here's the list of Amy's belongings, school contact information, and her allergies. Marjorie took the paper, briefly skimmed it, and sighed with dissatisfaction. Patricia, I raised 3 children myself. You don't need to worry so much. I know, but... Don't worry, Marjorie said with a smile. Child rearing in our day was much more effective than it is now. Children were more disciplined. Patricia frowned. Mom, please respect my methods. Amy needs special consideration. Yes, of course, Marjorie waved her hand dismissively. Her attitude conveyed an unspoken message: listen to your elders. Amy gave Patricia one last hug. The small arms clung to her mother's neck. Mom, come back soon, Amy's voice trembled slightly. I promise, I'll be back right away, Patricia promised. She felt a pain in her chest but knew this business trip could be a chance for promotion. As a single mother, she sometimes had to make such choices to ensure financial stability. When Patricia arrived at her Boston hotel, she immediately called Amy. However, Marjorie answered saying, "We're preparing dinner now, call back later." Patricia tried calling several times between meetings, but the conversations were always brief. There was something hurried in Marjorie's assurances of, "Don't worry, everything's fine." On the first evening, when Patricia finally spoke with Amy, there was tension in her daughter's voice. Amy, how is it at Grandma's house? Amy's response was vague. Did something happen? Patricia asked instinctively. I have a lot of homework. Amy's voice was small and hesitant. As Patricia was about to ask, "What do you mean?" she heard Marjorie's voice in the background. Amy, finish the call now. It's bedtime. But I want to talk more. Amy's voice resisted. Grandma said she'd put me outside if I didn't eat all my food. Amy whispered. Patricia's heart skipped a beat. What did you say? There was a sound of the phone being taken away, and then Marjorie's voice came through. Don't worry, it was just a joke. Amy has such a vivid imagination. Mom, please. Everything's fine, Patricia. Focus on your work. Leave this to me. After the call ended, Patricia's chest filled with anxiety. She placed her cell phone on the nightstand and lay down on the bed but couldn't sleep. On the morning of the second day, Patricia woke up early and called, but there was no answer. It was noon before Marjorie finally answered. Everyone's at school. Catherine took Amy. Don't worry. There was a sense of urgency in Marjorie's voice, as if she was hiding something. Patricia felt uneasy all through the meeting, constantly checking the time. In the evening, when she finally spoke with Amy, her daughter seemed like she wanted to say something but just repeated, "I'm fine." Catherine's voice could be heard in the background. Amy, it's snack time. Hang up quickly. Mom. There was a pleading quality in Amy's voice. Amy, did something happen? Can you tell me? Patricia's voice trembled with worry. It's nothing, Catherine took the phone. She had a little problem at school today. She forgot her homework. That's why she's a bit down. Patricia's anxiety only grew. After the meeting, when she returned to her hotel room, she decided to return home on the earliest flight the next morning. When she called Marjorie, she was briefly told, she's already asleep. I'll come to pick her up first thing tomorrow morning, Patricia announced, to which Marjorie responded with, there's no need to rush, as if trying to dissuade her. Patricia frowned. Something was clearly wrong. She began packing while seized with an ominous feeling. Patricia was sitting on the hotel bed, surrounded by papers, preparing for tomorrow's final presentation. However, her mind was filled with thoughts of Amy at her mother's home in Philadelphia. The clock showed 10 p.m. The contract with Mitchell Medical was scheduled to be finalized tomorrow morning, after which she planned to return home immediately. Her smartphone notification sounded, and Patricia checked the screen. It was a message from Rebecca. Pat, have you seen this? It's Catherine's post, check it right away. A short link was attached to the message. Patricia frowned as she tapped on it. An Instagram page opened, and the sight that met her eyes drained the blood from Patricia's face. The screen showed Amy standing in the backyard of Marjorie's house in the darkness of night. Dressed in pajamas, she appeared to be trembling and crying. The backyard lighting illuminated her tear-stained face. The caption Catherine had posted read, "Training time. A little discipline session for my niece." Marjorie's comment had received multiple likes and reactions. Patricia's hands began to shake. Anger and fear hit her simultaneously. Her 8-year-old daughter, locked outside in the cold night. Worse, this abusive act had been posted on social media and turned into a laughing matter. How could they? Patricia immediately called Marjorie. As the phone rang, her heart pounded violently. Hello? Marjorie's voice was calm. Mom, let Amy in right now. Patricia's voice shook with anger. What are you talking about? Marjorie replied, feigning ignorance. I saw the Instagram post. Locking Amy out and then taking pictures to post online. Are you out of your mind? After a moment of silence, Marjorie laughed lightly. Don't be so dramatic. It's just a punishment, nothing to laugh about. Patricia felt choked with anger. Punishment? Locking an 8-year-old child outside at night is punishment. And posting photos of it on social media is justified. It's not a big deal, Marjorie replied calmly. She didn't redo her homework and didn't finish her dinner, so it's just a bit of education. It was warm outside, and we let her in within 20 minutes. You always overreact. Put Amy on the phone, Patricia demanded. She's asleep. Wake her up now. Marjorie sighed. All right. A few minutes later, Amy's sleepy voice came on the line. Mom. Amy, are you okay? What happened? Tell me honestly. Patricia tried to keep her voice as calm as possible. Grandma said. I had to redo my homework. But I was tired. Amy's voice was small and trembling. Then she put me outside. Aunt Catherine took pictures and laughed. It was cold, Mom. Pain shot through Patricia's chest. Suppressing her anger, she said, It's okay, Amy. Mom is coming right away. I'll be there tonight to get you. Patricia, that's not necessary, Catherine's voice suddenly interrupted. Look, don't make such a fuss. We went through the same thing when we were kids, didn't we? That's why we are who we are today. You're too lenient. For this child's sake. Be quiet, Patricia raised her voice. Do you realize what you've done? It's abuse. Locking an 8-year-old child outside at night. And taking pictures to post on social media. Are you insane? See, what did I tell you? Catherine's voice could be heard speaking to someone else. I said she would overreact. Patricia pressed her trembling hand against her forehead, taking deep breaths to maintain her composure. Catherine, listen. Delete that post immediately. I'm on my way there now. I'm also contacting my friend Amanda to pick Amy up right away. Don't do anything to Amy until she arrives. You're being dramatic, Catherine sighed. But fine, I'll delete the post. Tell Marjorie too, Patricia said coldly. Fine, Catherine's voice was filled with displeasure. After ending the call, Patricia immediately contacted Amanda and explained the situation. Amanda promptly replied, I'll go right away. Next, she called the airline to inquire about changing to the last flight that night. Fortunately, there was a seat available on the 11:45 p.m. flight. Patricia paid the additional fee to change her reservation. Finally, she began researching information about child protective services. She needed to clearly understand what legal options were available. Marjorie and Catherine's actions weren't just old-fashioned discipline, they were clear abuse. She was determined to take all necessary measures to ensure this never happened again. Before leaving the hotel room, Patricia called her boss, Jameson, and briefly explained that a family emergency had arisen. The contract with Mitchell Medical would have to be taken over by another sales representative. The impact on her career might be significant, but right now, Amy's safety was the top priority. In the taxi heading to the airport, Patricia contacted Amanda again. Were you able to pick up Amy? Yes, she's at my house now. Marjorie and Catherine resisted at first, but when I mentioned Child Protective Services, their attitude changed, Amanda said in a calm voice. Amy was frightened. She kept saying, I don't want to be put outside again. Thank you, Amanda, Patricia's voice trembled with gratitude. Please take care of her until I arrive. Of course. Travel safely. Looking at the night view from the taxi window, Patricia sighed deeply. It pained her that her maternal instinct had been right. If it hadn't been for this business trip opportunity, Amy might have been subjected to an abusive environment for even longer. Her relationship with Marjorie had always been complicated, but she had thought it was within acceptable limits. However, this incident crossed a line. It wasn't simply a generational difference in values, it was clearly abusive behavior. Looking up at the moon floating in the night sky, Patricia renewed her determination. Family relationships would change significantly from now on. But for her daughter's safety and happiness, she was prepared to overcome any difficulties. As the plane took off, Patricia pictured Amy's smile. I'll be there soon, Amy. Mom's coming right away, she whispered in her heart. When Patricia landed at Philadelphia International Airport, despite the late hour, she immediately hailed a taxi and gave Amanda's address. Though her face was pale with fatigue and anxiety, determination shone in her eyes. She arrived at Amanda's house just after 1:30 a.m. Amanda's face showed fatigue and concern when she opened the door, but her expression relaxed when she saw Patricia. "Where's Amy?" Patricia asked without even taking off her shoes. "She's asleep in the upstairs guest room," Amanda answered softly. "Let's talk for a bit." The two moved to the living room, and Amanda offered Patricia some tea. Marjorie and Catherine resisted at first, but when I mentioned Child Protective Services, their attitude changed, Amanda explained quietly. Amy was frightened. She kept saying, "I don't want to go outside again." According to her, she was left outside for more than 30 minutes. Patricia took a sip of tea, trying to contain her anger. "Amanda, thank you. If it hadn't been for you." "You don't need to say anything," Amanda squeezed her hand. "We're friends. And when it comes to children, we should protect them regardless of our position." Patricia went to Amanda's guest room and gazed at the sleeping Amy. Traces of tears still remained on the girl's cheeks. Patricia sat gently beside her daughter and held her small hand. Amy stirred slightly in her sleep but didn't wake up. That night, Patricia closed her eyes next to her daughter but couldn't fall asleep. Various thoughts about what to do next swirled in her mind. The next morning, Amy jumped into her mother's arms when she saw her face. "Mom! You came." Of course, Patricia held her daughter tightly. "It's okay now. Mom is here." After breakfast, saying goodbye to Amanda, Patricia took Amy home. In the car, Amy slowly began to share her experience. "Grandma told me to redo my homework. But I was tired, and then she put me outside. It was cold. Aunt Catherine took pictures and laughed." Amy's voice trembled. "How long were you outside?" Patricia asked, trying to maintain her composure. "A long time. I couldn't see a clock, but it was from when the stars first came out until there were many more." Patricia felt a pain in her chest. When she stopped the car at a traffic light, she turned to Amy and said, "Amy, listen. What Grandma and Aunt Catherine did was wrong. It's never acceptable. I will never let that happen to you again. I promise." Amy nodded silently. Trust and reassurance were beginning to return to her small eyes. When they got home, Patricia first called a lawyer. She consulted about the current situation and possible legal measures. The lawyer advised, it might be difficult to prosecute as a crime at this point, but it's possible to report to Child Protective Services and set strict conditions for future visitation. After hanging up, Patricia opened her email and wrote harsh words to her mother and sister. "Your actions were abusive, and I am considering legal measures. Amy is deeply hurt. I will not allow you to see Amy for some time. Our future relationship will depend on whether you understand the severity of your actions." After pressing the send button, Marjorie called multiple times, but Patricia let them all go to voicemail. She wanted to cherish this time with her daughter. That afternoon, Patricia called her company and informed them she would be taking a few days of leave due to a family emergency. She was relieved to hear that her colleague had successfully concluded the contract with Mitchell Medical. Even so, the impact on her career was unavoidable, but Amy's care was the priority now. A few days later, while Patricia was working from home, the doorbell rang. When she opened the door, Marjorie and Catherine were standing there. "We'd like to talk." Marjorie's voice, lacking its usual strength, sounded weak. After hesitating, Patricia invited them into the living room. Since Amy was at school, she wouldn't have to face them. "Patricia, Marjorie was searching for words. "We came to apologize. We're truly sorry," Catherine continued. "But we thought we were doing what was best." "What was best?" Patricia's voice was cold. "Locking an 8-year-old child outside at night and making fun of her is what was best. That kind of discipline was normal in our day, Marjorie said apologetically. I had the same experience as a child. I thought it was right. Patricia took a deep breath. Mom, that was over 50 years ago. This is the 21st century. And even by the standards of that time, locking a child out, taking pictures, posting on social media, and laughing about it is nothing but abuse. Catherine lowered her eyes. The social media post was reckless. I deleted it immediately. But once something is on the internet, it never completely disappears, Patricia said. Do you truly understand what you did? Amy is traumatized. She's frightened and has lost trust. What can we do to be forgiven? Marjorie asked with a serious expression. Patricia answered calmly, if you really care about Amy, you should understand how much your actions hurt her. It will take time to repair our relationship. I think we should start with family counseling. The two hesitated at first but eventually agreed. Patricia made the conditions clear. Also, for the time being, you can only see Amy in my presence or with a third party present. And only for short periods. After they left, Patricia sank deep into the sofa. Today's confrontation had been emotionally draining, but she felt a glimmer of hope that they had taken the first step toward healing the family. A month later, Patricia began a dialogue with Marjorie and Catherine through a family counselor. The counselor was a middle-aged woman with a professional yet warm personality who carefully explained the differences between old generation, discipline, and modern parenting, pointing out how Marjorie and Catherine's actions could potentially cause trauma. In many cases, we try to raise children the way we were raised, the counselor gently explained. However, that is not always the best approach. We need to learn new knowledge and grow. Marjorie was defensive at first, but as the sessions continued, she began to confront her own childhood traumas. She realized that she had experienced similar discipline as a child and had been conditioned to believe it was correct. Catherine showed more resistance, but gradually she too began to understand the severity of her actions. In particular, she was shocked by the ripple effect caused by her social media post. 3 months after counseling began, Patricia allowed Marjorie and Amy to meet for the first time. During the brief meeting, Marjorie sincerely apologized. Amy, Grandma did a very bad thing. I'm sorry for hurting you. Although Amy was initially afraid to meet her grandmother, she sensed that Marjorie's attitude had clearly changed and slowly began to open her heart. The family bond wasn't completely repaired, but the healing process had certainly begun. Patricia maintained a firm stance to protect Amy while trying to restore the family as much as possible. It wasn't an easy path, but she believed it was the best choice for everyone in the long run. Mom, can I take this picture book with me? On an autumn day a year after the incident, Amy was preparing to visit Marjorie's house. Now 9 years old, she had a more confident expression than before. Of course, Patricia answered with a smile. Grandma loves reading to you. As Patricia picked up her car keys, she reflected on the past year. Family counseling had progressed smoothly, and Marjorie had made sincere efforts to change. She had voluntarily joined classes to learn modern approaches to child rearing and had come to acknowledge that her past methods had been wrong. Meanwhile, repairing the relationship with Catherine wasn't easy. Her actions on social media had caused wider ripples than expected, and she had eventually been forced to change jobs due to the discomfort at her workplace. Catherine still couldn't fully admit her mistakes, but at least she had improved her behavior in front of Amy. Amy, are you ready? Patricia called to her daughter. Yes. Amy slung a small backpack over her shoulder. When they arrived at Marjorie's house, the elderly woman was waiting at the door. Her face wore a gentle smile, and her previously strict expression had receded. Amy, Patricia, thank you for coming. Amy had been nervous during the first few visits but was now gradually building a new relationship with her grandmother. Marjorie was also learning how to interact with her granddaughter anew. I brought this to read together, Amy offered the picture book she had brought. How lovely, Marjorie responded kindly. Let's read it together. Patricia watched the two while preparing tea in the kitchen. Today, she had not invited Catherine. Repairing that relationship would take more time. While drinking tea, Marjorie talked about the classes she had been attending recently. I guess you can teach an old dog new tricks, she laughed self-deprecatingly. On the way home, Amy suddenly asked while looking out the window, Mom, what is a real family? Patricia thought for a moment before answering. A real family consists of people who respect each other at all times and try to grow by acknowledging mistakes. No one is perfect, but with love, relationships can be mended bit by bit. Amy considered this for a while before saying, I think Grandma has changed. But Aunt Catherine. It takes time, Patricia said gently. But your feelings are most important. You don't have to force yourself to forgive. When they arrived home, Patricia's smartphone rang. It was a message from her company. Despite cutting her business trip short last year, her work had been recognized, and she had been selected to lead a new project. Congratulations, Mom. Amy jumped up and down seeing her mother's joyful expression. As Patricia hugged her daughter, she thought about the journey of the past year. It had been difficult and painful at times, but she had no regrets about her choices. Standing up to protect her daughter and choosing the path of restoration rather than complete severance, it wasn't easy, but she believed it was the right choice in the long run. Looking at the photo displayed on the entry wall, there were the smiling faces of Patricia and Amy. Patricia considered also displaying a recent photo of Marjorie and Amy beside it. Family bonds can be wounded, repaired, and are constantly evolving.